everybody. I'm going to talk today about Visual Studio 2026. Yay! I'm going to sit because most of this is demos, but hopefully you can see me in the back. So first of all, just a show of hands, how many people still use Visual Studio 2022 or before? How many people are using something older than Visual Studio 2022? Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. And how many people have given the 2026 Insiders or preview a go? Awesome. How many people have actually given 2026 GA a go? Awesome. I'm running out of questions, so let's move on. Straight from the horse's mouth, Microsoft at the .NET Conf, they talked about the 3 key goals that they had in mind when they were building 2026. The first pillar or goal was to do with performance. So they want increased speeds for startup. They want those solutions loading in seconds, not lots of seconds or minutes. They want faster building times, faster times to go through the full debugging flow, including increases in actually starting up a debugging session. And overall, less hangs. Anybody who's used Visual Studio knows the sort of hangs that we're talking about. They reckon that they've solved a lot of those problems, and I'll go into a little bit more soon about how. Quality of life improvements. So first of all, there's a new modern design using what they're calling their Fluent UI. It's just a little bit schmicker. It's not a massive change. There were some early iterations where they had some interesting issues with font aliasing and stuff, but they did fix some issues there. So what they've come up with in the end is a really lovely compromise between what we had being just a little bit older and what we're having now being a little bit more modern. And there are some features, though, that are still, people are still asking for improvements on, which we'll go through as well. But yeah, overall, that was a focus. It's optimized for .NET 10 and C++. I can't honestly tell you in which way, other than how they usually optimize their Visual Studios for whatever the current framework is, or core, whatever. But yeah, that's something. And then moving forward, they're moving to a model where they're going to do monthly updates. So rather than quarterly updates, you're going to actually see stuff chipping through regularly. Now, if you're in that Insiders or preview version, you're going to obviously see them sooner. But you will see regular updates on the stable general release. And then, of course, AI enhancements. So GitHub Copilot improvements, just general improvements in that whole experience. If you have been using Copilot in Visual Studio and you've been using it in Visual Studio Code, you probably know it's been lagging behind. And I have to say, I have seen a lot of improvements in this. This is not just talk. There's still some gaps that they know they're working on, but overall, it's a really useful experience now. Why it's really exciting. This is things like being able to get the AI agent to assist and analyze when you're debugging things, and also running profiling analysts, something that will be really helpful if you know that you need to work out why your program is running slowly, but you're not so sure about how to use that interface. The profiler UI can be really overwhelming. The charts can be really overwhelming. So this can help to run all that and analyze it for you. So making improvements there for everybody. And then modernizing apps. If you're running on older stacks, the AI agent is apparently very good at helping you to modernize those apps, like say your .NET Framework apps, and upgrading them into the latest version of .NET Core or .NET 10, and helping troubleshoot and fix some of those bugs that you tend to get along the way. So that's the top level. First off, installation, you'll straight away see a few differences. For a start, what used to be called preview is now called Insiders. So if you've seen that when you're looking at some of the information that's coming out, or if you've gone to the installation page and you're looking for the preview version, Insiders is what it's called now. Other than that, it's the same sort of idea. You can install it side by side with Visual Studio 2026, so with your actual live version. You can also still have 2022 running. You can also have all your older versions running as normal. just note that you can't run 2022 preview now with 2026 preview. So you'll be forced to upgrade from there because they don't have previews anymore on 2022. So, you know, it took me a few seconds to work out why that happened to me, and it suddenly clicked. It wouldn't make sense otherwise. For the first time, they've really worked on that initial setup and porting your settings and extensions and everything across from the old to the new. So with it, basically 2 clicks, I think it is, you can install and then choose to copy all those settings across from your previous version. Now, I know that supposedly we had that for a few years by logging in and having all of your keyboard shortcuts come across and stuff. But I know I experienced a lot of things where I thought, well, it didn't bring that across, or it didn't bring this across, and certainly not extensions. So now it'll actually do that, and it'll bring all of those extensions across as well. And speaking of which, we now have full backwards compatibility with extensions from 2022. So moving forward, we shouldn't have that stop-start of the upgrade where we realise that some of our extensions haven't been upgraded yet, and the poor extension developers don't necessarily have that difficulty as well with upgrading it across. So overall, really positive movements there. That's it. Now I'm going to go to demo mode. Now, I have a few things that I want to run through. I have failed to launch on printing, and apparently no modern workplace has a printer anymore. So do excuse me because I'm going to work off my phone for my notes. But also, I have had some fun today because I usually work on a remote desktop, and I decided that maybe I don't want to be, toying with the demo gods too much by working on a remote desktop. So we're going to go see how we go doing everything that I want to do on my actual laptop here and see if we run into some issues that I did see earlier with Copilot, but we'll see. So first of all, running the 2 versions of Visual Studio side by side. So this is Visual Studio 2022, and I'm going to also open up 2026. Very similar look and feel here, of course, just a little bit of layout changes and the like. And then if I open up this solution in 2022, this is a big solution-ish, big-ish solution. And you can see it's loading in Copilot, and it's loaded it in here. And for me, the time that I can go to searching for a piece of code is the time that I consider that it's ready to go. And now, one of the things that I'm experiencing, and this is the fun of demos, is that I promise you on my dev box that on this project would take, by the time, a few months ago, that was taking a good 30, 40 seconds. So on this system here, it's actually really fast, but this is quite a new Copilot plus PC. Opening up that same project here in 2026, it's opening up here. We can see the loading project down here now. And if I hit Control P, and I close it again, and I'm back into my code again, and I'm already able to search around and open up my file. So for the sake of demos, it's about the same. So I'm going to go with, I promise you, actually, this has been a lot faster. And I know the first time that I opened up in one of the preview versions, I was blown away. It legitimately blew my mind because I was able to open up my solution. And the other thing also is that Copilot keeps coming up in the way. And so the first thing I see at the moment is Copilot. But what I was seeing was my Solution Explorer sitting there whirring away. So definitely some positive improvements there in the speed of opening that up. When I went from 2022 to 2026, I have a handful of extensions. I didn't have any issues with those. So the next thing I wanted to show you is actually having these side by side. So this is the new over on the left-hand side, and this is the old. So as you can see, there's not a lot of noticeable difference, and it's really hard to see on a laptop. But they've got slightly different designs here of the icons at the top, and I know that this isn't zoomed in, and there's a reason for showing you that. But just in general, things are just a little bit smoother. That's really about it. One of the big differences is if I go to Tools on the old version and actually go to Tools and I come into Themes, I've got my standard themes, right? There's like 5 of them. Blue extra contrast, dark light, and then just user system settings. So actually there's 4. And that's it. That's all I can do to change those. In the new version, you actually have a lot more themes out of the box, so you can personalize it. And if you don't care about personalizing your themes, then we can't be friends. And then you can also get more themes. But also, one of the really great ones is the editor appearance. So we actually now have the ability to also apply a basic light or dark theme, including light or dark extra contrast, just to our editor. So I could make my editor dark, but I can keep the rest of it light. So if that's something that you like, then you have that ability now. I'm going to change it back because I don't love it. There we go. So keyboard shortcuts have been added in to match what you expect on systems these days. So Control P now brings up your code search, which is the equivalent of your Control P in Visual Studio Code. So I've been told, I've been customizing that keyboard shortcut for about 7 or 8 years. And so I already had it working. The other one that I've been told didn't used to work was Control L to close your windows. That now works as well. So little things like that, quality of life. Just be aware if you are using, they didn't add the Control W to the C# developer profile, so you just have to bind that yourself like I've done myself, but you can make that work when you're working in C# files. And while we're on it, if you are working on an older version or you haven't explored it yet, one of my favourite features to show to people who don't know about it is the code search and the feature search. This is really powerful when you're moving around files. Control P brings this up, and then you can just start typing whatever it is, whether it's part of a file name or part of a function name or even variables, and everything works as well these days. And it can have some typos as well. So if I wrote Palner controller, it recognises that I was probably trying to type planner controller and gives me those options as well. So really powerful search. It can search through JavaScript files as well, and like I'm pretty sure I've made it work for a CSS as well. This is returning stuff in JavaScript files here. So if you haven't played around with this, I highly recommend using that. And one thing that you might notice actually, which is a pretty new feature, is the did you mean this? I find that that's not necessary because it's already giving me those recommendations anyway, but that could be handy for you as well. So if you're not already playing with the code search to move around your code, have a look at it. And the feature search is very similar. It allows you to just search for your features based on, so one of the ones that I constantly have to do because it actually didn't come across because I didn't have it set in my old version, was reopen documents on solution load because I wanted to have it turned off for the initial load test. And that might be one of the key reasons that it's faster on both at the moment for me too. But that just brings it up, and then I can click on it, double click on it, and it'll take me into the settings so that I can change that setting. So a lot easier to find those settings. And speaking of which also, the settings have had a complete revamp in terms of their look and feel. It's all integrated now instead of being the pop-up dialogue. And there's obviously a stack more settings as well for you to have a play with. So get a look at those. Then my phone dies and I realise that I've completely failed for the day. All right, I'm going to bring this up on the computer and you can just all play along with me. All right, that's not the talk notes that I want. That's our pizza order. Okay. Is anybody aware of the fact that there's now a Markdown editor and preview in Visual Studio? Yeah, it's been there for a little while. They kind of snuck it in a little bit. But there's also further improvements now. So if I actually just open up create a new file here. So actually do I have one? No, I deleted it. So I'm going to come into a project here and I'm just going to hit Shift F2 to add a new file if you're not aware of it, markdown.md, and just create a new markdown file. And then this will give me header and some text. In fact, you know what? I'm going to lean on Copilot here. Example markdown file, and I'll get it to give me some stuff. And I'll say bullet list with multiple items. Thanks, Copilot. And so that's cool. And so you'll see here that we have this preview button up here, and that can open up our preview on the right-hand side, which is extremely handy. So now, in this new version, if I actually save this file and close it and reopen it, markdown. Oh, sorry, I'm trying to tell you about something that is coming in the next version. In the next version, there is also the ability, this is in Insiders right now, to actually have a full page preview. So you can actually just have whatever you need, your README file or whatever, taking up the full page, and if you want to edit it, you click a button up here to go back into edit mode. So as well as having that split mode, you'll be able to do that. So one of the cool things, though, with Visual Studio 2026 is the introduction of mermaid charts. Does anybody know what mermaid charts are? Awesome. I did not, and I was so excited when I learnt about this. I hadn't played with them before, and now I'm going to go and document all of the code that I've never documented before. So mermaid charts, demo. Let's just go ahead and get an example. So you start your mermaid chart code off with that syntax, and we'll just get an example here. And if we come into preview mode,
Bron,
that's a
can you zoom in
chart.
a bit, please?
Sorry?
Can you zoom in?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I forgot to. That was one of the things I was going to show you too. Unfortunately, you can zoom in on the text. You still can't zoom in on the general UI. That's the thing that I was going to mention before. That is something that has been given feedback a lot to Microsoft.
You can
There
do
are
it.
extensions.
I don't need an extension. So your feature search,
Yeah.
search for environment in the font and colors, and then you can bump that one up.
Yeah.
You'd have to go to font and colors and then choose environment. So it's
That's the fonts and colors visual experience. No, fonts and colors.
I can't see that far.
And I can't zoom it.
So it is there in the font and colors when you change the environment size to 14
Oh, you can
or so.
change the font sizes.
Yeah.
Yes, but the icons apparently won't scale.
They do.
Oh, I've seen a few people talking about it just recently, and the fact that they can't.
Mine works.
Yeah,
I'll show you
there
later.
go. I know that there is also an extension they said that allows it as well, but yeah. But anyway, so it was just like if you were hoping that was there. I didn't think it was, but maybe it is. So have an explore anyway. But for now, it's just this that you want to zoom in on, right? Just the middle part. I don't need to show you anything else anyway. Yeah, so that's a mermaid chart there, and that's how easy it was. So if I wanted to take it a step further and say, now give an example of a class hierarchy, and go for it. Can you give me the nice big one that you gave me the other day? No. That's annoying. Gave me a beautiful one the other day. Let's try that again. Let's say class hierarchy UML diagram of some simple classes. Okay. That looks better. There we go. There you go. So this is even the sort of things you can do really easily. And now you can do it in Visual Studio and you'll be able to preview it. So happy days. All right. How am I going for time? Didn't even look. 2 minutes? Okay. Okay, I'm going to fly through. Performance stuff I talked about. They've achieved their performance improvements by parallelizing tasks so that they can now use multiple CPU cores for tasks and run things in the background instead of using up the UI thread all the time for things. So that's why you'll see just general improvements in the speeds. So that's great. And as I said, general improvements in hangs. And testing, if you've been using enterprise version, you would have access to code coverage for all this time. Even from community version, now you do. So it's now available from community and up, which is a really huge give and very exciting. Okay, AI improvements. Yes, this is the biggest thing that Microsoft talk about, of course, but it is actually a huge improvement in the Copilot. It is now fully integrated, and in my experience, it's very usable. It looks and feels very similar to how it looked in the old version, but it mostly kind of just works. So it is also a very similar experience to what you have in Visual Studio Code if you've tended to use that. You get to choose your ask mode, the agent mode, or the default, whatever that is, and it will work with you, and it will make the file changes, and you can choose to keep the files or roll them back, do all those sort of things. If you haven't played with that, I highly recommend jumping onto some of the GitHub Copilot Learn documents, because there are really great there's really great documentation and tutorials that step you through that process. It's amazing how they've been able to do that to train you on a non-deterministic solution. Like, it actually steps you through stuff even when they don't know what answers you're going to get. Of course, you can choose all your different models like you've been able to for a while. One of the other key features, though, is now when you look at your tools, so this is where you might go into to turn on your different MCP servers. Out of the box, you get access to a heap of new MCP servers like GitHub Copilot, Microsoft Learn. Azure is usually there, but again, that might be me thinking of the current preview, the current insiders version. Will's nodding his head, so maybe it is, yeah. But watch that space, because they're going to keep pushing things through that's just to make it really easy for you to do that now out of the box instead of having to load it in yourself. Okay. And so what I really wanted to demonstrate to you, and I'll open up a solution, is some of the debugging stuff. So don't worry about saving that. So I've got an Aspire 13 startup project. So this was literally just a project that I used the project templates to install, to create. This was after I updated to Aspire 13 on this system. So I'm not going to go into the details of Aspire 13. It's really great, and I highly recommend having a look at it. But what I wanted to focus on was what it's like to debug a little bit with the Copilot now. So I'm going to run this project now. And this is an Aspire project that just has an API service, and it also has the starter website. So we're off and away, starting it up.
Not used Aspire yet? Yeah, okay. No, it's fine. Just use it now. It's good.
Yeah,
it's really worthwhile.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things Aspire gives you is this. Am I still going through? I feel like it just got quiet. No. One of the things it gives you is this really great dashboard to start with to administer the projects that are running, and it helps you troubleshoot them. You get all of your structured logs and your console logs and metrics and everything straight out of the box. So really helpful. We're going to jump straight into our app service. So this API service, this API service just has, it doesn't even have Swagger turned on. It's just so basic. But it's just got this / weathercast endpoint. So I'm just going to come over into the app API project and zoom that out and get rid of my tabs there. Okay. You still can't control plus and control minus to do the zoom in and zoom out. It kills me. But anyway, is that big enough? We've got a bit bigger. Yeah. Okay. And I'm going to close off my Solution Explorer. Where did my mouse go? Hello? Lost my mouse. Okay. So put a breakpoint here. And I'm going to run the weather forecast. Okay. So when I'm in here now, when I'm debugging, and I'm just going to step over this line. And so the first thing that I'm seeing here is what we call inline values. So this is actually showing me what this function call, what this operation returns. So I can see there it returned weather forecast array with 5 items in it. I can click on it to go through my usual view of what's in it. So right there in front of me. And then also I've got the ability, when I step down here, to see what it's going to return before I step out of it. So you don't have to go chasing that or put weird breakpoints in to see all that data. Now, I've also added another endpoint here, which is completely nonsensical and trivial thing that takes a number and does some rubbish calculation. But what I wanted to show was this is also just a minimal API endpoint, but if you were actually in a function here, it would be the same. You can actually see inline the values of the parameters that have been passed in. So if you do debugging in JavaScript in the dev tools in Chrome or Chromium browsers, you might be familiar with this already. So it's just showing me what values came into this function straight away without having to hover around. And as I step through, it's telling me what things are being calculated as they go, what they're being set to. So I'm seeing along the way, just without having to click through. And here it's telling me what the result of this logic statement is going to be before it actually executes it. And you can hover over it and see what it is that's making that happen. So if you're in a situation where you've got lots of logic in there and like one thing is making it be true or whatever, then you'll also be able to see that information to say like, oh, well, I know that it's going into this loop because this value was null or whatever it is in there. And then the other thing is that you can actually, when you're hovering over here, you've got this little Copilot, Analyze with Copilot now. You can use this to then throw back into Copilot and get it to help you analyze it. If it's got a bug, if you're trying to work out why something is coming up wrong, it will work that out and work with you. So that's really powerful as well. Already I've actually started solving a few problems just by lazily clicking on that and getting it to solve the problems for me. So have a play around with that. We've got adaptive paste I didn't mention also. So now when you paste code in from whatever you've Copilot, from Copilot or any of the LLMs or from Stack Overflow or whatever, it will actually also help you to adapt it based on the code base that you're pasting into. I haven't played with that yet. Has anybody else? I think, though, what I might have done is incidentally done it without realising it, because the idea is that it does it really smoothly and suddenly you're like, oh, it already worked out what that value should be. So that's pretty cool too. Debugging, evaluations of if statements and parameter methods. I think I've pretty much covered everything else off that I really wanted to drill into. And there are improvements to the code review experience as well. So if you've got open PRs in your code, in a branch that you've got open, it'll show those in line in your code if you've got that setting turned on. There's a preview feature that you need to turn on to make sure you get that. That has been there for a little while now, but also now, if you'd ever noticed, it wasn't going to show you all of your lovely markdown in there as well. And either in 2026 or the next preview version, it will actually show that, as you would expect as well. Okay, so when it comes to picking up these new versions, it can be overwhelming. So don't forget to go to help, what's new, and this gives you everything that's just been released in the latest version. This is a massive list, obviously, so you could spend a day just trawling through this, right? But even in the latest insiders, it's a little bit more manageable each time. It's a really great way to see what's new, and they give you usually some really great examples and sometimes some little animated videos as well. Starting from the start again. Okay, so go away and explore it. Run a side-by-side with 2022. You don't have to stop using that. You can run them both on your computer. You can even run them at the same time if you've got enough resources. Overall, I feel like also it's definitely chewing less of my resources in general. And I'm running on a very slim little dev box. So remember that what's new, and they have official blog for Visual Studio. So that's great to keep up to date with the new stuff that's coming out. So that's pretty much it. Thanks, guys. Questions